Welcome to episode 14 of the Topics Happen podcast with Coach Ashleigh. My name is Ashleigh, and today we are chatting about being overscheduled, lacking energy, and finding time, some type of way, to do the things we love, including skating, even when we have no time in our schedule. Things can be so overwhelming. Some weeks just feel jam-packed, and Monday starts and we have no idea how we're going to get through the week to Friday. So we're chatting about that. I'm also going to be sharing a little bit about what the point of practice is and giving you an example from a skater that I've been working with who is just recently returned to skating. Welcome back to AKC Style, the place for figure skaters who want to learn how to skate their hearts out, compete at their highest potential, and spend as much time practicing their inner work as they spend physically training on the ice. Let's get started. A question that I get a lot is, how do I practice? Or, not so much with my private skaters, but definitely with the skaters that I work with and learn to skate, and some of my younger skaters. They ask, why do I have to keep doing this? So I want to kind of answer before we jump into everything in this episode about what is the point of practice? Because that's something that seems really obvious to a lot of people who skate regularly and who practice more than once a week. But to people who practice every so often, or maybe they practice once a week for a little bit of time each week, there's a lot of reasons why that could happen. It seems a little difficult to spend a lot of time working on the same thing over and over and over again if you only practice once a week, or it gets boring. So I want to kind of answer that question now to you, or with you. So no matter how experienced you are, how many years you've been skating or what level you're on, you can always benefit from practice. And I think a great example of this, if you are listening to this with me in real time, then you probably have been watching, or maybe you attended, if you're in Boston, the figure skating world championships that are in Boston for this last week of March. And I've talked about the world championships here on this podcast before. I have a previous episode that I'll link here if you're interested. It was a Q&A. But the thing that's really interesting to watch at these championships are, of course, the quads are amazing. The quality of skating is amazing. But one thing that I've been enjoying the most is watching the practice cams that US Figure Skating has been posting on their YouTube channel. So you can go and check that out when you finish listening to this episode. But I've been really loving watching the feed. So it's a full practice feed from all the different disciplines that they've been posting. And hopefully by the time this episode comes out, they're still on their YouTube page, because it's really interesting to watch this. So they're multiple hours long and there's commentary. But I'm enjoying listening to the commentary from other skaters as, their practice is going. But I really love watching how these skaters practice. So if you have time, you should go and definitely watch some of it. It's a few hours long, so you may not want to watch the whole live stream of it, but it's worth watching, because these skaters are practicing in ways that I think a lot of people don't understand, how practice works. So it's an official practice too. So that's the other thing. If you're unfamiliar with what official practice means, it's different than how these skaters would practice normally just at their home rink, not in a competition. But they most of them don't take their program and do a full run through the way that we would see it in competition, live on TV. They're gonna mark their jumps. They know their music. They may do their choreographic sequence. Maybe they do their footwork sequence. Maybe they do a few jumps here and there. If they have triples or quads in their program, they might single or double the jumps just to practice it and figure out okay, I have my knees under me, get my edges together. But they know their music. They have a great energy. And they act as though this is a competition. So if they're supposed to have some sort of emotion in their program to match with their music or a character that they're portraying, that's what they are bringing forth on their practice. And I think some skaters, especially at the more recreational level, who aren't trying to achieve this world championship status, they kind of miss the mark on that in their practice. But it does help a lot. It would help skaters who even aren't at this level to understand their character that they're portraying and practice in character. Because the audience can connect with you much better, and you also will feel more confident when you're practicing. I think another thing that helps skaters understand what the point of practice is understanding like their stamina and how their body can change if they take time off. So if you, for example, like let's just say you haven't been skating in like 6 months, 7 months, whatever, and you get back on the ice, you will notice immediately within like the first couple minutes that you're on the ice, even if you're just skating laps, that your stamina is way different now than it was 6 months ago. You'll notice too that like your body has changed. So if you are an adult skater, you'll probably notice that like your muscles probably are cramping a little bit more easily. You get a little bit more achy in your practices. You're definitely less flexible than you were 6 months ago. Like taking time away from skating, it is expected that when you get back, you're not going to be in the same place that you were before. So you do have to work back to a certain point. So we'll talk a little bit later in the episode about what that looks like and like how to do it. But I think that that's something that like we need to understand, especially as adult skaters. Like we have to be more realistic about the way that our body changes and how our stamina changes, and that affects everything that happens in our practices. I'm so glad you're here because there's something we seriously need to talk about. And as your skating coach, I think that if I don't tell you, nobody else will. It's something that I know has been affecting you, and it's also affecting your teammates. So now that I have you here, I think we should just talk about it. Okay, here it goes. There are 2 things that you definitely need to remember before you go to your next competition. The first thing is that you absolutely need, please, 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 to take your skating socks out of your skating bag and take your team jacket out of your skating bag and wash them. Oh yeah, and if you have old skating tights that are also in your skating bag or in your competition bag, please take those out and wash those as well. Okay, phew, I'm glad that that's over. And by the way, I would never have to have that conversation. It's so awkward with any of my skaters because they already have their ultimate competition checklist. On this checklist, it helps you be prepared for everything for a skating competition or show that you may be performing in. And these are just a couple things listed on this ultimate competition checklist. So every skater needs this, okay? Go head over to my website, akcstyle.com/stay-ready to download your free ultimate competition checklist today. And then if you're somebody who's doing more difficult skills, or maybe like you're jumping or spinning, you're going to notice too that when you fall, bumps and bruises hurt more. Your tolerance for falling definitely changes when you take time away and you come back for sure. So another thing that I think it's important for us to understand about practicing, and again, this applies to every skater, regardless of age or ability or experience or anything like that. You have to understand that you're practicing, one, because you want to. Like, I hope as a coach that when you show up to practice, it's because you want to be there, not because somebody's making you be there or you're doing this because you feel obligated. Unless it's an obligation that you have for yourself because you have certain goals that you want to meet. But you should be going to practice to maintain your skills. So you're not just practicing for the sake of practicing, and you're also not practicing only to learn new things. Those things happen, as a result of practicing. You do improve, you learn new skills, you challenge yourself, sure. Sometimes you go to practice because you just know you should, even if you're like not really feeling it. Maybe you had a hectic week at work, you're tired, maybe school was rough for you and you just want to like go home and curl up in your bed and watch Netflix, or listen to music or something, but you still show up and you go to practice. And once you're there, you'll feel better. But we also practice because we need to maintain our skills. So you show up because you should, but more importantly, you show up so that whatever you're working on will only improve instead of sliding backwards. So like I was talking about earlier, if you take 6 months off of skating, it's kind of feeling like you're going to start over again a little bit. Like you'll have a baseline of where, your skills will always live as long as you like stay healthy, you're staying pretty active by coming on the ice when you can. Even if it's like months in between, there'll be like a certain baseline that you have, but that will look different for you depending on like how often you are skating. So you need to practice in order to maintain your skill level, not only just to learn new stuff. And I know I experienced this as myself as a skater and a coach, because there's a rink that I skate at from September through April that actually closes for the summer. And then there's another rink that I coach at that closes for the summer as well. So I'll be experiencing this, and I know a lot of you experience this who are listening to this as well, where your rink is closed for the summer. So I'm talking about maintaining your skills, showing up to practice, going once a week, trying to get in all the skating ice time that you can when it's available to you, even when you don't feel like going. But if you are like me and you have a rink that you rely on for practice time that closes over the summer, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to maintain your skills on the ice if the rink that you go to or the rink that's closest to you locally is closed? So, some of you are willing to venture out a little bit further than where you're used to skating to go get practice time. But if you can't do that, or it's impossible to make time to do that, there are other ways that you can try to maintain your skills. So one of the ways that I always suggest is for skaters to do some off-ice exercises to help them maintain their skating ability. So obviously this isn't going to be exactly the same as being on the ice, but there are a lot of things you can do to replicate it. I mean, we found this out when we were all in quarantine and the rinks were closed in 2020. And it was really hard to stay motivated and like keep going to practice. So we saw a lot of different and creative ways that coaches and skaters got people moving again. We saw a lot of people who were doing rollerblading. We saw people who would get that like polyglide squares of ice and put them like in their garage or places in their house or anything like that. So, those aren't always the most accessible or affordable ways to practice off ice or practice skating when your rink is closed, but you can just literally go to a park. Go to your local park, go outside in your yard, find a little bit of space and take like 30 to 40 minutes to just do some exercises. So a simple exercise you don't need a lot of space for is to work on your spirals. You work on your balance, you work on one foot gliding motions, you work on your spirals, you work on your core strength. All those types of things will help you when you get back on the ice have a really nice spiral. It'll help you with your flexibility as well, and you'll notice a difference. So if you start doing that before your rink closes, you'll be able to kind of like better replicate these exercises when your rink is closed and you don't have access to the ice. But if you don't have 30 to 40 minutes to do some of these off-ice exercises for jumps, for spins, for spirals, and I have a playlist of off-ice exercises I did like a very long time ago that I'll link here if you want to take a look at those, just so you can have a starting point. But if you don't have a whole lot of time, take 30 seconds to like even 1 minute to just give yourself a spiral stretch. Stand up, walk away from your desk or walk away to an area where you can have a little bit of space to literally just try a spiral on both of your legs and then go back to work. Like that doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of space. It'll make a big difference. Point your toe as you extend your leg. See where your posture is sitting and your chest is down low and your head is up. Like feel every muscle in your leg, feel every muscle in your core. That doesn't take longer than a minute. So maybe 2 minutes if you want to stretch on both sides and hold the position. But that'll help you improve your spiral and you don't need a rink to do that. So that's just one exercise of one move that you can do. But like I said, I'll link up in the description box and up below in this episode on the video so that you can see some different balance exercises and off-ice things that I suggest as a coach who does deal with a lot of times not having ice time. one thing that we chatted about earlier when we were talking about the importance of practice and what the point of it is also like figuring out your baseline. So I think this ties definitely into preventing injury and finding time to work off ice on certain things, because you have to figure out like where is your limit. So like I call this like your max capacity. You can call it your limit, you can call it your baseline, but it basically is like what is the minimum amount that you feel comfortable doing every time you hit the ice, and then what's the maximum amount. Like if you go past this point, you feel like so uncomfortable in your body, or you feel like you might get hurt and you're scared of it. There's a big difference between like hitting your max and pushing through to challenge yourself. So maybe we can do an episode about that later. But for me personally, I have had a lot of ankle issues. My ankle mobility has been really poor. Coming back to the ice as an adult skater, I injured my ankle more than a few times when I was younger and never really got it taken care of, never really got it looked at, just kind of kept pushing through. And then that gap of time between when I stopped skating and then when I started skating again just for myself, my ankle strength really declined. So I've had a lot of ankle issues. My knee pain is not severe, but I definitely notice that when I don't move enough, my knee starts to hurt, specifically my landing knee and my landing ankle, so my right side. But there are little things that I do when I'm editing these podcast episodes or editing my YouTube videos, that I do to try to like help strengthen my ankle. And they just take a couple minutes and it does make a big difference. So let me know if you want to know an episode, or I can show you a video of some of the ankle mobility exercises I do. I can share some of the references with you. So let me know in the comments. But there are little things that you can do to help you figure out where your max capacity is, where you feel like you're like reaching your limit, where you feel like you can establish like, okay, I can do this amount of things before my body starts to feel like it's like giving up on me. And maybe that's a little extreme, but sometimes that's really what it feels like, especially if you're an adult skater listening to this. Like you can definitely resonate with that. And like for me as a coach and a skater, it's something that I look out for with my skaters too. And another thing that I tend to look out for my skaters, because I do work with adults, is how they're able to make time in their day and figure out, or not in their day, in their week, to figure out when they're going to skate. And you know, I'm not the type of coach that's like very harsh with my skaters. Like, if you don't skate, you're horrible and like, I hate you. Like, it's nothing crazy like that. I mean, we're doing this for fun. We're doing this because we want to skate. But as their coach, I do make sure that I give them the impression of like the importance of practice and having a consistent schedule. And, you know, one of the skaters that I work with privately, who is also a friend, and I feel really inspired by her skating and her ability and all the things that she's done in her life with her skating, especially, is one of my skaters who's come back and she started skating with me again after having a baby. So we have known each other for a while, and then we started working together, and I was doing private lessons with her. And then when she found out she was pregnant, she had to kind of like rearrange what her life was going to look like, now having a child. So, you know, she did take time off away from skating altogether. And then when she came back, we didn't start working on private lessons right away, but she was prioritizing skating in her life. So along with her husband, they figured out how they were going to continue to live their life and do the things that they want to do. And for her, that was with skating. While they also were trying to maintain their child's care schedule and just figure out how they're going to make everything work. But the thing that I really am inspired by is that she was able to figure out how to skate and still go after her goals. So there are a lot of things that we work on together in her private lessons, but she has found a way to consistently skate 2 times a week. And, you know, she's very busy. She's got a lot going on in her life, like we all do as adults, but she has found a way to consistently come to the rink twice a week so that she can really go after the things that she wants to do now that she's back on the ice skating. And that is something that's really inspiring. And a lot of my adult skaters have that sense of importance in their skating and in reaching their goals. And I think that that's something that's really admirable. And not a lot of us can actually stick to that. So that's something that's impressive. And if you're an adult skater listening to this and you have been able to figure out how you're going to prioritize your skating for no other reason than because you want to, and if you're lucky enough to have support to help you prioritize your skating, that's even better. That's something that should be congratulated, and it's really special. It's something that not a lot of people are able to do. So just in getting back to talking about my skater here, another thing that has never come up for me personally because I've never been pregnant has been like, how would you prioritize skating in this sport, or maybe for you if it's a different sport or a different activity that you do? How do you prioritize that, and how do you know like when to come back and what to do and all those types of things that come up at that time in your life? So, for me personally, I have never experienced that. So that was something that was new to me in navigating this with my skater. But I do think, I'm not a medical professional. You should be consulting with your doctor. You need to go to your OB for sure and figure out like what's going to work best for you. But I do think, and just as a coach and trying to help a skater navigate this is like, you need to be honest with your doctor about where you want to be. Like, what are your goals? And, make it clear you want to get back to the ice. And of course, listen to what they tell you, but you also need to, have goals for yourself and what you want to do. And I don't think that, as women, we should be told to stop doing something forever because we took a break for a year or 2 years or whatever, especially when it comes to skating. There is a way for you to come back, and who knows, you might even come back and be better than you were when you left. And I think that there's definitely space and time and energy in your life that you can make this a priority for, and do what you can to try to find the support or support yourself in coming back to skating if you're in a similar situation, because it is possible and it's really great to see. Regardless of whatever the reason is that you're coming back to skate, whether you've had a hectic work schedule in the last couple months and you just haven't been able to prioritize getting to the rink, or your rink closes that you go to regularly for the summer, maybe you just haven't been able to get the energy to go skating for whatever reason. There's a lot of different factors that go into why prioritizing skating can be difficult as an adult. And I think that the most important thing is to just give yourself grace and be realistic in like what the goals will be when you come back, what it looks like when you skate, how you're going to come back to skate, and how to set goals for yourself. Those are probably like the 4 most important things that I think that you need to sit down with yourself and think about. So one of the ways that personally, when I came back to skating after taking some time off and coming back to just skate for myself before I started coaching again, this is something that I did that helped me in 2 ways, but I think it'll help you too. So to make time to skate, and you can do this with other things too, but I'm just going to relate it to skating because this is what I did. But to make time when you feel like you don't have any time, you have to first look up where you're going to skate. So find the location, whatever the rink is. It shouldn't be a rink that's like 45 minutes to an hour away, because then that's just going to always give you an excuse to not go. Too much traffic, I don't have the time, it's going to take me 2 hours out of my day. Like, there's always going to be a reason. So if you can, find a rink that's close to you and look up when you can skate. Utilize public skating sessions. Utilize freestyle ice. Try to skate as much as you can. Yes, if you go during public skating, depending on the week or the time of day or whatever, there might be, less room on the ice for you, but there's a way for you to work on skating skills. You can try to spin in the center ice. You can, if you're lucky, work on some jumps, but there's a way for you to do this. So find a way to get to public skating or go to freestyle ice. So then the next thing that I did, once I figured out where I was going to skate, is to pick one day a week. So just find a day. For me, that day ended up being Wednesdays, where I would say, okay, I'm going to give myself Wednesdays off. Like, I'm going to request every Wednesday be my day off, and that's going to be my day for skating. So that was my priority. Wednesdays meant skating time. So no matter how I was feeling from the day before, or, feeling like physically when I woke up that day, I knew that this was my one day to skate, so I need to prioritize it. So to hold myself accountable, I treated Wednesdays like they were a doctor's appointment. And if I didn't show up for practice on Wednesday, I would pay myself a cancellation fee. And that seems pretty harsh and severe, but that was a way that I, at first, going back on the ice, was able to keep myself motivated, because yeah, it's going right back to me, like I'm not paying anybody else. But if you cancel your doctor's appointment with less than 24-hour notice, they're going to charge you. So for me, I personally charged myself $75 to go if I didn't go. And that was also a good way for me to save. But you can charge yourself whatever amount. I would suggest making it at least more than $20. So it has to be something that's going to feel a little like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But it's also benefiting you, so it's not too bad. But give yourself a cancellation fee for not showing up at the rink. So I started doing this, and then it also was a way for me to look back at all the days that I didn't go skating on Wednesday, even though I gave myself that day, said it was my priority, tried to hold myself accountable by putting it in my calendar and telling people I was going. But that is the thing that made me stay on track, because I didn't like going back and seeing how many days I didn't skate. That really kind of did it for me. So I was able to stay consistent once I started charging myself a cancellation fee. And then the other thing I started to do was tell more people that I skate on Wednesdays. So, I told my work that I had my day off needs to be Wednesday. At first I didn't tell them why, but I did say I need Wednesdays off. I started telling my friends oh, I skate on Wednesday. I started to tell my family I skate on Wednesdays, and it just was something that people got used to hearing me say I skate Wednesdays. So it also was a way for me to hold myself accountable by telling people, because they would all often ask me when they saw me Thursday, Friday, Saturday, oh, how was skating? So if I say, oh, I didn't go, be like, oh man, now I have to come up with an excuse of why I didn't go. I can't just say I didn't feel like it, because I keep talking about it. So it's just another way to hold myself accountable. And then as I started to get back into this schedule and this flow of skating every Wednesday, I started to invite my old skating friends to come with me. So I invite one or two friends with me who still were interested in skating and were willing to go with me and have free time. If they could, they would come with me. So skating is always better if you can go with a friend, or make friends when you're there. So those are the few things that I would suggest if you have no time to skate, or you're worried about trying to make time to skate. Start with these steps. And before I let you go, I just want to give you a little recap over everything that we talked about, because this episode was a little all over the place. We started by talking about returning to skating and what's the point of practice. We ended up talking about, how to figure out what your maximum capacity is physically, and how to prioritize skating by making time to practice. So, what is the point of practice? Just to bring it back from to the beginning of the episode, we talked about how skating helps you learn new skills and challenge yourself, but it also helps you, or practicing helps you maintain those skills that you've learned over time. Then we started talking a little bit more about your body's max capacity and what you can physically take, so that you don't injure yourself or you don't overextend yourself. If you're coming back into skating, you may need to talk with your coach about where you're at, where you want to be. But, depending on the reason why you may have taken a break from skating and then come back, you may need to loop in your doctor and figure out how they can help you make a plan with how you can physically get ready to get back on the ice again, depending on the reason why you left. And then figuring out your schedule will help you be able to set your goals better and plan ahead too. And then we also talked a little bit about how to make time to be on the ice when you feel like you don't have any. So accountability is huge. You have to be accountable to yourself and your own goals. And then if you can, find somebody who will help hold you accountable if you need it. And then paying yourself is a great way to hold yourself accountable, give yourself a goal, and then also save a little money. So ask for help, ask for support where you can get it. As a coach, I offer support to my skaters all the time, whether they work with me privately or in groups or on team or whatever. I really want them to feel like I'm supporting them in their skating, and no matter what is going on in their life, if they are prioritizing skating, then I want to help them prioritize it. Unfortunately, so many of us deal with people who think like, why are you still skating? And who cares? You're not going to the Olympics. But like, it's important to you. So you need to use that as your motivation to keep showing up. So I hope that this episode helped you. I hope that you have a little bit more motivation to keep skating or return to skating, or work off ice and try to maintain some of your skills if you can, especially if your rink is going to be closing for the summer soon. And I am so glad that you joined me today in this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks so much for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, let me know in the comments, and be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. This helps other figure skaters discover my channel and also helps me decide what topics I should share with you next. Have fun out there, and I'll see you at the rink.